the coronavirus. Everybody's talking about it. It's all over the media. It's on social media. Everybody's afraid of it. What's going on? We're going to find out today. We're going to go ahead and dive down and see what this virus is all about, where it came from, and what we can do about it. So we know the virus had an outbreak in Wuhan, China. We know it's affected around 7,600 people. There's been around 170 deaths from it. Some of the interesting things that we're going to go ahead and look at first is going to start with the Chinese biowarfare laboratory that was about 8 miles from the outbreak. Now, was this virus created there? Does it stem from that laboratory? We don't know, but it's very interesting that it's only 8 miles from it. The narrative that they're pushing is that this virus came from a fish market and it stems from fish soup or people eating bats. And we know that's not true because the first person that came into contact with the coronavirus wasn't anywhere near that fish market. So they're obviously trying to control the narrative. So was this intentionally done? Was this virus set and put in the public on purpose? Well, let's not jump to any conclusions. Let's go ahead and take a look at all the information and let's go ahead and dive down the rabbit hole. So we have a Chinese researcher that was accused of trying to smuggle biological material out of the US. He was arrested in Boston, had around 21 vials of biological material that was in his sock. We have a Charles M. Lieber, who is the chair of Harvard's Department of Chemistry and Chemical Biology. He allegedly violated federal law by not disclosing his involvement with China. Where was he working? You guessed it, Wuhan, China. He was making around $50,000 a month with all expenses paid. So it seems to be that there's some cover-up of an American chemist that is working in China, in the city where the virus had an outbreak, and they're trying to cover up something, and something's going on with that. We have the Bioengineering Institute, who owns a patent on a type of coronavirus. The patent was filed in 2015 and granted in 2018, and reports say that they're working on that virus since 2003. One of the major funders of the Bioengineering Institute is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, along with the UK government. Now granted, Bioengineering Institute mainly deals with animals and not humans. However, they are connected to pharmaceutical companies that do work on humans, such as Novavax. Novavax is now racing to create a vaccine, and guess who's involved and partly funded by them? Bill and Melinda Gates. Now, after they announced this, the stock rose up 60%. Then we have Inovio Pharmaceuticals getting a $9 million grant from the Coalition of Epidemic Preparedness, or CEPI for short, we'll call them, who is funded by none other, would you look at that, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, along with the World Economic Forum and other countries. And I think you can guess what happened to their stock after they announced the grant. You bet it. It rose up. It soared right up. Now, these aren't the only companies that are racing to create a vaccine. We also have companies such as Johnson & Johnson that are trying to create a vaccine and starting their research and development. And one of the most interesting things about all this stuff going on is that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, along with the World Health Organization and the Johns Hopkins Center and a few other organizations, ran a simulation on a virus outbreak that would potentially kill millions of people. This was known as Event 201, and it happened on October 18th, 2019. And I quote from their website, "Event 201 simulates an outbreak of a novel zoonotic coronavirus transmitted from bats to pigs to people that eventually becomes efficiently transmissible from person to person, leading to a severe pandemic." Now all of a sudden, the same people that were involved in the simulation are now racing to create a vaccine for said outbreak. Okay, so let's pause for a second. We have people such as Bill Gates that are involved in owning patents on corona-type viruses. they ran a simulation on what would happen if these viruses were to make their way out into the public. Now, the same people are involved in creating a vaccine to, quote, cure or stop this outbreak. So we have a problem, we have a reaction, and we have a solution. I think we're starting to see the agenda. Now, guys, history repeats itself. This isn't the first time we've seen something like this. Just like the vaccine fraud in 1976, where we had the swine flu pandemic, where we had CDC officials and advertisers create a campaign to promote fear, and they used celebrities to endorse their campaign to try to get the mainstream public to go ahead and get the shot. And they used their names without their permission. 60 Minutes actually did an episode, and they interviewed many of the people that were involved, such as the CDC director, people that were involved in the scientific study of the vaccine, as well as the advertising people, and some of the celebrities that were, quote, endorsed and took the actual shot. These celebrities never took the shot. Over 500 people were paralyzed from getting the vaccine. Many people took this vaccine and could never walk again for the rest of their life. It affected a lot of people, and a lot of people didn't get compensation after this happened. So you can go ahead and find that 60 Minutes episode in the links in the description. I recommend you guys check it out. It's really interesting. It's going to provide a lot of insight, and it's going to kind of show you how stuff like this has already happened. And also, you bet that episode was absolutely deleted from 60 Minutes. You won't find it in their archives anymore. You have to go elsewhere to find it, such as YouTube. So go ahead and check that out. And just like the swine flu in 1976, we've had other things such as the West Nile in 1999. We've had the SARS in 2003, which is very similar to the coronavirus actually. We had the bird flu in 2005, the swine flu again in 2009, Ebola in 2013 to 2016, and the Zika virus in 2016. Now, why would people do stuff like this? First, you have to understand how big the vaccine and disease industry really is. It's estimated to be about a $60 billion per year industry. So it's a huge industry, and it's a massive moneymaker. Now, one of the main reasons a lot of people believe that this stuff is going on is population control. And we have evidence of this in things such as the Georgia Guidestones. If you're not familiar with the Georgia Guidestones, go ahead and look those up on Google. There's a lot of weird, interesting, creepy facts about the Georgia Guidestones and how they kind of mysteriously got there. But essentially, they're just guidelines for humanity to run a civilization, and they basically give you a guideline saying that they think the population that is sustainable for the Earth should be around 500 million people. And like most of you know, we have upwards of 7 million people. So it's thought that a lot of these elites are doing things like this to control the population because they don't want as many people in the world as we have today. And that's evident because if you really look at things and how billionaires have so much power to make change, if you really wanted to save lives and your goal was protecting humanity and all the people on this earth, your first thing to do wouldn't be to rush to create a vaccine and spend millions of dollars on something like this to, potentially save a few people. We have anywhere from 20 to 30,000 people every day that die of hunger. It's one of the main things that kills people in this world. So if people really wanted to save people and protect humanity, that would be the first thing that these billionaires would do. They would do their best to stop world hunger and not try to put a little band-aid on it and open little foundations and take pictures with kids showing that they're doing things, because they're not. They really do believe in a population control, and they don't want to see as many people on the earth as we have today. So the media has been promoting the same fear campaign for a long time. We've had various different outbreaks, and we have history of what's happened before when these outbreaks happen and what is done about them, and how these outbreaks happen in the first place and how the viruses actually make their way out into society is always questionable as well. So at the time of writing this and doing the research, It was estimated that about 7,600 people were infected and there were about 170 deaths from the coronavirus. Those numbers are probably higher now. They're probably closer to 8,000 people affected and about 200 deaths from the coronavirus. Just to do some small math for you, that's about a 2% mortality rate. So if you contract the coronavirus, you have about a 98% chance to live. Now, if you looked at the news and everything else going on, you wouldn't think that you had a 98% chance to live. They're pushing a lot of fear into this, and they want people to be afraid about what's going on and to take it seriously. People are declaring state of emergencies, and all these governments and agencies are, declaring emergencies about what's going on. But when you think about something that has a 98% chance of survival, is it really an emergency? Is that something we need to take so seriously? Or should we be putting a state of emergency on 30,000 people a day dying from hunger? In my opinion, that would be a much more serious statistic that we should focus on. Now, any of this information isn't to diminish what has happened and the people that have been affected and the people that have lost their lives. My heart definitely goes out for those people and their families and everybody else that's affected. Nobody wants to see that happen, and it's not something that anybody would be okay with. But the way the media portrays it and the way we approach combating the virus, and like I said earlier, how the virus makes its way out into the public in the first place is very questionable. And they're things that we should talk about. So the number one thing I want to get across to each and every one of you is to do not live in fear. When you live in fear, your immune system becomes weak. When you are afraid of something happening and you are afraid of getting sick, you get sick. We've seen this time and time again with the power of the mind and the placebo effect. How people view things and how they use their mind directly affects their environment and controls their immune system. We've seen this time and time again, from people that can hike Mount Everest in shorts to people that you can inject viruses in and they can eradicate them with their mind, to people that take the placebo effect and heal themselves. The power of the mind is beyond our comprehension. So do not live in fear, people. Be happy and keep a good, healthy state of mind, and you will be okay. We need to become our own doctors. We need to stop solely relying on outside sources of information. We need to learn to trust ourselves again, to follow our intuition, to listen to our gut. Don't just listen to something that somebody told you and run with it. Even the things that I tell you, do your own research and make your own conclusion. We need to become our own juggernaut. It's about the soil, not the seed. I'll say that again. It's about the soil, not the seed. Now, what does that mean? In order for something to grow, it has to have the perfect environment. In order for a plant to be healthy, the seed, yes, has to be a good seed, but most importantly, it has to have the supporting environment for it to grow. It has to have the right nutrients. It has to have the right amount of oxygen and phosphorus and different things inside it, as well as water, for it to flourish. Now, how can we apply this to life? And how can we apply this to our health? Well, it's not about the seed that comes to get you, okay? It's about the soil you have. And the soil is representative of the immune system. Your immune system needs to be in the perfect condition for certain things to thrive. Every day you come into contact with millions of viruses. Millions of cancerous cells develop within your body, but you have a strong enough immune system to overtake them and to stay healthy. Now what happens is people that don't care about their health and that let themselves go, they have a weaker immune system. So they become susceptible to disease. They become susceptible to cancer. And that's why you see these things happen. So what we do in medicine today is we focus on the symptom and not the root cause. Everything's a patch. We just try to patch things up. And the main focus needs to be that immune system. If you have a healthy enough immune system, you will not get sick. The flu virus, the coronavirus, all the different viruses that go on cannot sustain themselves in that environment. They won't live. They will be eradicated. So the idea of creating a vaccine to go ahead and make your immune system stronger, it doesn't work. That's not how you make the immune system stronger. That's what we call the top to bottom approach. That's like building a building and starting with the top. You wouldn't do that, right? When you build a building, you start with the bottom. You start with the foundation and you work your way up. Now, you can compare a vaccine to a patch. When you're giving a vaccine to someone, you're essentially putting a patch. You're trying to do this thing that is trying to solve a problem in the reverse order. If you really want to solve the problem, you have to build a strong environment and foundation to block and protect itself from anything that comes in. And that's what's being done in medicine today. They're doing it in reverse. They're doing it top down and not bottom up. Because in reality, if you do bottom up approach, if we actually take a look at the immune system and we try to understand it better and we try to strengthen it, there's no money in doing that. Because in reality, all you really need are high vitamin C and D3 levels and vitamin A, along with various other vitamins and nutrients and other things that keep your body healthy. But the main thing is having a healthy immune system and having a high enough amount of vitamin C and vitamin D. Getting in sunlight, that's why being in sunlight is so important. But see, when we approach things from the bottom up, again, there's no money. That's why the pharmaceutical companies always have advertisements on things that fix the symptoms. Because if we were fixing the root cause, they would be out of business. The pharmaceutical company is a $1 trillion industry. They're not interested in making you healthy. They're interested in putting a patch over things and not fixing the root cause. Because if you fix the root cause, their industry crumbles. It goes away overnight. And that's not what they want. So I'm going to go ahead and list some foods and things that research has shown to improve immune function and immune health. So again, going back to vitamin C, it's an essential nutrient that blocks many, many viruses. In fact, if any of you have never seen vitamin C therapy and why it's illegal in the United States, you should go check that out. It's way more successful at ridding cancer than chemotherapies. It has almost like a 60 to 70% rate where chemotherapy is much lower. They've cured people with stage 4 cancers, which if you try to go to a hospital with stage 4 cancer, they won't even take you, because if they take you, it will actually lower their success rates for chemotherapy, which isn't what they want. So again, vitamin C, essential nutrient. We have things such as chili peppers, kales, lemons, limes, oranges, grapefruits, strawberries, much more. We also have garlic, ginger, broccoli, turmeric. All of these things carry essential antioxidants to build your immune system, and again, to do the bottom-up approach, to build a strong foundation and a strong immune system so you don't get sick, so cancer doesn't overtake your body, and so you stay a healthy individual. So getting your organs and glands to function properly is essential. Ridding the body of toxic waste, heavy metals, and parasites is the first step towards wellness. It's one of the first things that you can do to have a healthy body and to have a healthy immune system. So again, guys, don't believe the fear, don't believe the hype. We have a mortality rate of less than 2%. And again, this is just the beginning of this. I'm not saying that something could happen from this. More importantly, I think we need to focus on all the connections. We need to connect the dots. We need to look at the people who own the patents, look at the people that are creating the vaccines, look at the people who are running simulations. We need to understand what's going on. And most importantly, don't live in fear. Be happy. Follow your passions. Stay healthy. Create an impenetrable immune system and be your own juggernaut. You can't get sick if your immune system and your body is healthy enough. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Stay safe, stay healthy, have a great day.